Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. Hope you're all doing absolutely excellent. And I want you to hold on to your seats or whatever you're doing right now. Hold on to it because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to do something I've only done twice to my surprise this year. And now a third time, I'm about to have a Starfield conversation. And many of you say, this is 3 times too many, Matty. But the reason I am primarily invested in Starfield as someone who doesn't really play the game anymore is simply this. Whatever happens with this game impacts stuff I care a lot more about. Things like Elder Scrolls 6, things like Fallout. As we've covered very extensively recently, you have the existential crisis of Elder Scrolls 6. It's been a long wait, and Bethesda's got a lot to live up to there. Then you've got Fallout. Recent rumors suggest multiple Fallout projects have been greenlit. And in the awkward middle child of all of this is Starfield. It's been dead silent since November of last year. Bethesda's just given us kind of empty promises of, hey, we're excited, we can't wait to tell you more. And that's been the statement now, as we'll get into, but also earlier this year. But whatever happens with Starfield genuinely impacts in a significant way, I feel, Elder Scrolls 6. If there's a world where this game, and I agree with many, it's really hard to imagine right now, but if there's a world where this game sees a little bit of a turnaround, a little bit more momentum, a little bit more demand for content, how does that slow down these other projects that people want from Bethesda? Also, the other way around, if this is another shattered space moment for Starfield, man, we got to move on quick, and maybe that means we get other things we do care deeply about in Fallout, Elder Scrolls quicker. But to get into it, we have an update for Starfield, and full transparency, really small one, but that leads into a rumor, which leads into old Todd Howard comments, and you know the Mr. Matty way. We pull this all together, we go down that rabbit hole, don't act surprised. This is how the Bethesda coverage goes. So if you're new here, and you're into what's going on with Bethesda, consider subscribing. So first, the update. I undersold it. Every issue you had with Starfield has now been fixed. Read it and weep, haters. General update notes here. Minor improvements to format and display in creation menus. Addressed an issue that could cause extreme temperature gear to appear incorrectly. Minor improvements to sorting in the missions menu. And general crash and stability fixes. There you go. Tell me what you've got to complain about now. That's right. Okay. So this is our first update for Starfield since November of last year. Otherwise, it's been dead silent. So yeah, them talking at all about this game is significant at this point in time. At the top of this update, they write, a new Starfield update is available today with improvements to the creations menu as well as the crash and stability fixes. Looking ahead, we're continuing work on future updates and we'll share more about the exciting things we have planned for Starfield in the coming months. Now, there's a million ways I really want to take this conversation. One of the ways I do want to get into it is how a lot of people misinterpret Bethesda sounds for, oh, they're cooking. And look, I've been there. I've tricked myself into it many times before. Like, oh, they're silent. They must be really working hard on something. Fallout 4 Next Gen update, looking right at you. Oh, are they going to give us like all the creations? Are they going to go hard? Are they going to add more? Oh, the TV show's coming out. Are they going to synchronize something with that? It's broken still. They're silent because there's disaster. I don't know if that's the case with Starfield. I don't want to imply that, but it's more so that when people think Bethesda's silent, their dreams get ahead of them. And I've been there, guilty as charged before. So I want to start off there, ground us a little bit for those who need it, and then move into the rumors that are popping up and where we're going to really, I think, learn more about Starfield, because I think that's the important point. Okay, this is a nothing burger update. When do we learn more, though? Because now I want to know what's happening with this game and, in turn, Elder Scrolls 6 and so on. So let's turn to the Game Business Show. This is hosted by Christopher Dring. He was sitting down talking with Matt Piscatella of Circana, where he provides a lot of data on game sales across the industry and how they rank. And at the bottom of the footnotes of the conversation, they do write, Xbox is expected to announce more game ports to other platforms, including Nintendo Switch 2 and PS5 in the coming weeks. So Starfield coming out of hiding right now, just ahead of Gamescom 2025. I do find that timing to be mighty suspicious. So I feel like, just to get really ahead of the conversation here, Bethesda's gearing up for, we'll say, a Starfield Complete Edition. Here's Shattered Space. Here's whatever the second update is, the second expansion is, and we're putting that together with the base game, putting it on PS5, maybe even Switch 2. Who knows? I doubt it, but maybe Switch 2. But we're putting it there. Y'all play, y'all enjoy. We're moving on. This is because the PS5 port for Starfield apparently has been close to done for a while now, and it's been in the works for a while, and it should have been last year, but Bethesda held off. And I feel like that indicates that they might just be getting ready to move on. Like, okay, if we're going to release this thing on PS5, we'll do it all in one fell swoop and kind of move things along here. So where did we learn this information? It comes from Tom Warren of The Verge talking to my boys Randall Thor and Jez Corden on the Xbox 2 podcast. It's there that the article writes, Starfield on PS5 was meant to originally have already happened. Warren says they were originally going to do that with the expansion, and then I don't know what happened there, referring to Shattered Space. The game is set to get a second expansion this year, according to Todd Howard in my interview, which led the podcast to theorize it could launch alongside a PS5 release, with Warren saying they had been working on it for a while, so it should be ready. So if they've been holding this PS5 port, they're likely holding it for some retooling. The question is, why is Bethesda so silent with Starfield, right? And you have your answer already. We got into this a little bit at the end of last year when I was rounding out my conversation about Starfield. I was begging Bethesda to just please take a look in the mirror, because as like Emil was shooting this company in the foot progressively on Twitter, having awful response after awful response to the fan criticism with Shattered Space. And then on top of that, Todd saying, well, this right here, where Todd Howard wondered if Starfield should have delayed buggies for Shattered Space. And this comes from Phil Spencer. He says, Todd and I were talking about Shattered Space. Starfield is a game I put a ton of hours into and really love, but they've had this thing where they've added features throughout the year and they had an expansion. I think some of the feedback on the expansion is we wanted more features. And he's like, well, should we have waited to put buggies out? He continued, and so I think you're trying to tune both development effort and impact of the expansion. And I think there's always going to be a balance of managing the game month to month, but not every game will do expansions. These were the responses to Shattered Space. And to be frank, as I covered in like, I think 4 or 5 videos in a row when Shattered Space launched, I thought these were awful responses from both Emil as well as Todd. And I'm, you know me and the coverage I've given Bethesda, like I'm not Mr. vilify these two all the time, but like these were sincerely bad responses to what I thought was their worst ever DLC, if you exclude like what Fallout 4's Workshop DLC was, kind of the nothing DLC that game got. I do think sincerely in traditional Bethesda DLC, this was really bad for them, and they had to take that look in the mirror and they weren't. And what upsets me / worries me a little bit is simply this, that despite what we said after seeing that response from Todd and Phil, is that they seem to have gone in that direction anyway, which is a complaint I've had with Bethesda a lot. It's like sometimes I feel we're not cutting through to them. When I see you say, oh, we should hold back these features that would have made the expansion more impactful, I look over at a great product in Cyberpunk 2077. I go, well, I'm looking at update 1.6 and 1.7 and 1.8. And in turn, as we jump into 2.0 with a big expansion in Phantom Liberty, there's so many times CD Projekt Red has pulled out of me the desire to do a full replay of that game. They've rebuilt and retooled that game entirely. I know we can talk about the 2020 launch all day, but the reality is they stuck with it. They dramatically changed things based off fan feedback. Everything we all wanted in that game from the start managed to make its way there. But Starfield, I look at and go, so your answer as a Microsoft-funded studio is to instead pull back these gradual features from me, the consumer, and pack them all into an expansion to sort of compensate for shortcomings that are not being addressed. That is what worries me a little bit. It doesn't feel like, as a fan, I have been heard based on the action I've seen taken, the words, and then the action I've seen taken. You say, hey, we should have held back on some of these updates because the buggy did arrive in a free update before Shattered Space. So when Shattered Space drops, we're like, no, it's just the questing, the writing, the design, the explorable space. Like all of this is not your best work. You need to do better here. And they instead choose to go quiet, which I do respect and I do understand, but like no updates. I look at this quote and go, oh boy, did they actually hear and understand the feedback? And so it's those 2 points I've just gone on and on about that really put Starfield in the position it's in now. If this next expansion can be that Phantom Liberty moment, which I know, by the way, people mistake the theorizing for the hoping. I'm not expecting that at all. I don't think it's really possible for Starfield to do that because Bethesda, as I've critiqued in videos in the past, has spread themselves so wide. You're doing 76 support. You were working on a next-gen update for Fallout 4, Starfield DLC, Starfield updates, Elder Scrolls 6. Now we're hearing rumors that Fallout 5's been greenlit. Like, Bethesda's still like a 400, 500 plus team over that set of studios. Like, they're big, but they're not big enough to manage all these things at once. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot about their mobile division. Like, they're doing a million things, and I would just love, as I asked Todd last year, like, slim the focus, work on like one thing. But to me, I think Starfield's future, if you're one of those people who enjoyed it, like I enjoyed the base game of Starfield, but if you're hoping for more Starfield, I really do think it hangs on this entire expansion. They have to hit a home run, and I do think sales will help because creations have done really well for Bethesda Game Studios and Starfield. I know this is a point that people don't want to hear, but there are people who have made full-on careers off of creations, and I think that's fantastic, and I think it's well earned. Increasing that base and in turn increasing the support that Starfield can get might be the shot in the arm it needs. Maybe they do commit to a year 3 if it sells well on PS5. And I think all of this is going to go down at Gamescom. We're approaching the year 2 anniversary for Starfield. Crazy to say that. I remember like literally sitting in this chair when I first moved into this house reviewing this game, and we're talking about year 2. Crazy. But we're approaching that 2nd year anniversary, and it seems like that's around the time that Bethesda likes to kick up massive Starfield stuff, right? We got the Shattered Space expansion a little bit after the 1 year anniversary, so I feel like things are lining up where year 2 of Starfield should land in the same spot. They've given themselves a full year of updates and support, plus the expansion to pack into one place, and so I'm really curious what it's all going to be, because a lot of people have come to me and been like, what do you think the story's going to be? That's the interesting part out of everything. I'm like, I have no idea. I have literally no guesses outside of just, I'll say, continuing the loop. That's what I'll say for those who haven't beat it, like continuing the loop and going beyond and answering those questions at the tail end of the game. That's where I would personally expect it, if anything at all. But this video has now turned into me just speculating. So yeah, ultimately, we finally got a Starfield update. It's looking like something's happening at Gamescom. Ports getting announced there. I would expect it to be a complete edition, you know, both expansions in one, PS5 relaunch, and however this performs is going to really determine the future of this game, and in turn, that will impact things like Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5. So high stakes here, ladies and gentlemen. You let me know what you're thinking down below. I'm sure you already have. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.